All righty. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry about the little wait in time. We've been experiencing some technical difficulties. So if y'all notice a little bit of different appearance on the show, we've had to do a little improvisation here to make sure the stream would work a little better for Mr. Jim. So it's going to be a great show, and we've decided we're going to do a little special thing here. We're going to chop up the interview here into probably a 4-piece hour-long 4-hour-long sessions, and I think it's going to work out a lot better. Y'all are going to enjoy it and get a lot more out of it. So today, this is part one with Project Omega / CCS vet, RT Auger 10, Mr. Jim Bolen. And Mr. Jim, thank you for joining us. I hope you're doing well today.
Well, I'm doing a little better. Sorry about all the in the beginning. I mean, like I told you, this is called FUBAR in the military. So, and I don't know what happened, and I did in my limited experience. So, sorry about that. And thank you again for taking interest in some of the things I appreciate it.
Well, it's
and I also appreciate what you do for SOG too, obviously.
That means a lot coming from.
That's important. Nice to get that word out.
Absolutely.
Most people have no idea what SOG is.
Well, you as I'm sure you're amazed to see now how much interest now is growing. I mean, it's not just us Americans. I mean, the Brits are big into it. All of the overseas nations are big into it. The Japanese, the Koreans. It's quite interesting to see who all gets the SOG bug, shall we say.
Well, talk about SOG. I can remember I tell people I was in special operations and everything. They said, "Oh, special operations, what kind of instrument you play?" They thought that was the band. Because, I said, no, it wasn't quite the band, So.
Well, we were a band of sorts, but not the band you're thinking of.
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, we always kind of ask guys, almost, if you will, the like a comic book story. What's the origin story of Jim Bolen? Where were you born? Where'd you grow up, and what was it like for young Jim before joining the military?
Well, again, I was born in Dayton, Ohio, and I was born in 1941. So obviously, I'm 83 years of age.
Wow!
Like I just told you before we started the show, I said if my wife knew I was going to live this long, she probably wouldn't have married me because she's like 16 years younger than I am. So
wow.
But anyway, yeah. And fortunately, I'll tell you, I was very lucky. I lived through the 50s and the 60s, and that was really a good time to live. I mean, it wasn't about drugs or anything like that. I never smoked a joint in my life. And just like partying, I tell people, I said, back in my day, we would take speed because we want to stay up 3 or 4 days and party. Nowadays, people take something else so they can lay down and not do crap. You know what I mean? So it was just a different thing. Hot rods, loved hot rods and music. Rock and roll actually started back in then. And it was just a great time to be young.
And that's the truth. And people are already mentioning your book and everything. And guys, I've got a copy. I know it's in hard demand. If you keep looking on Amazon and some other places, copies do pop up. Mr. Jim does not have any copies, I'm sorry to say.
I have 2 copies left, and that's for my 2 granddaughters.
Yeah. I was going to say
they're like 12 and 13. They're too young to read my book right now. When they get a little bit older, but I've kind of signed those to because I've had a lot of people. I noticed online on Amazon, I always kind of check. Some people are selling that book for $100 some.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Kind of shocked.
That's
if they're okay that, I'll rewrite the book. I mean, what the heck?
Hey, I helped Mr. Ray Harris out of CCC get his republished because there was some renewed interest and people were paying hundreds of dollars for it. So if you get a wild hair, I can help you out, and they'd literally just republish it just like that. But it's a great book because not only do you cover your wildlife, which we're going to be covering because it's going to take several podcasts, but you do a great thing, which I enjoy when authors do militarily wise. They include photos of not only their military time, but also when they were growing up in pre military times. And as you just mentioned, you were a big car guy. You and as you can't tell right now if he was wearing a short sleeve shirt. Mr. Jim is still in just unbelievable shape, and I've got some photos to show him in Vietnam. He's probably got 22 in his
I'm proud of staying in shape at my age.
Oh, I mean, you were an absolute beast.
It's funny, the VA takes care of me. And this was like happened about a year ago. I had to go see a different doctor down at VA in Cincinnati. And the doctor says, wait, you're Jim Bolen? I said, sure. And he went down the hall and got 2 more doctors. And he said, look at this guy. He's 82 years old. And he's the best shape than we are. By the way, I kind of lost the picture. They got so small. I don't know if you did something at your.
That's and that'll end up coming up again. About your stuff.
I don't know if you know what I'm saying. They got real small.
Oh, yes, sir. I brought it up while we're in small category. It's gonna do that. When I do big pictures, I may make it large again. But when did you first get into to bodybuilding, and I guess at that time you were actually really bodybuilding as opposed to just weight training and everything, because you were quite big going into Vietnam and in the military.
Well, what kind of got me into bodybuilding is in the 3rd grade. So my father was like 6'2". He was a big man, but he was anti-violent and anti-fighting. Wow. Matter of fact, when he was, and he and my mother both smoked, and they said, and they told me when I was younger, Jim, you can smoke all you want to, just don't fight and curse. Well, obviously, you know how that turned out. But my father always said, it takes a bigger man not to fight. That's what he always preached to me. And I remember in the 3rd grade, a bully pushed me down in the 3rd grade on my back. And I'll tell you what, that lived with me until the 8th grade. Of course, I started working out, and I beat the crap out of him in the 8th grade. It made me feel better. But I lived for 4 or 5 years. I just, like the old saying, a hero dies once, a coward dies 1,000 deaths. And I kind of believe that. As long as you fight and stand up for yourself, you don't have to win the fight. I mean, you won it for yourself personally. So that's kind of the way I always believed.
I mean, like you said, you were in quite a few scuffles leading up to joining the military. I mean, you were a bouncer in a nightclub, and gosh, I mean, that beer bottle story is enough to make someone wince up and cry for mommy. I mean, that was a real deal bar fight right there that you went through.
I've been stabbed a few times, shot a few times, blown up a few times. So I've had a few beer bottles over my head and in my face. So,
God, with you learning to do some weight training, and I can only imagine with you fighting and all of that, did you get into any boxing or martial arts or anything at an early age or anything?
No, I mean, a lot of people thought that I was some kind of a karate expert. I guess because of my wins and my fights, and when I fight multiple people and things like that. But no, I boxed. Of course, when I first went in the service, I did some boxing. But I did some boxing when I was down at the Y. That's where I worked out at the Y most of the time. But I started working out with a gentleman that my father knew, and his partner that he worked out with, they worked out in the grind. He had the largest arms in the world at that time, which was like 22 inches. Where at that time, now this is back in the 50s. I mean, that was huge.
Oh, yeah. And
they put me on the right track, taught me how to work out and everything. And I still work out now, and I just feel better. I'm still alive. I don't know if it had anything to do with my longevity. of my lifestyle because it's a diet. Everybody says, I bet you have a good diet. The doctor said, I bet, what do you eat, just salads? I said, the only time I ever get a salad, I double beef pepper with cheese. That's the only way I ever get any of because I just do not eat salads. I'm just a meat eater.
Yeah, I agree. Not that I'm near in any shape, form, or fashion like you, but I've never been the salad guy. I'm a red meat steak guy, burgers, deer. You know, I've got to have meat, fish. When and I meant to ask earlier, with you with your future of going into the military and being in a prestigious unit, did you have any family history of military service in the family, or any close relatives or friends?
Well, my father went to World War II. He never could understand why he didn't, because he was what 1A, whatever the number was at that time. He was gone, no, and he always felt bad about that. Couldn't understand why he didn't go, and I don't know why he didn't go. I don't know if there's something else he didn't tell me or whatever. He felt bad about that. And then of course my sister was deceased, but her husband was in the Marines, and we used to, back in conversations about Marines and Special Forces and things like that. Matter of fact, whenever I go out there for dinner, he always makes sure I got the Marine knife and fork, put the USMC stamped on it and everything. So, but anyway.
Jeez, that's very interesting. You and also interesting, you had mentioned doing a little bit of boxing at the Y. Did you also do a little bit of scuba at the Y as well?
Yes, I did. Matter of fact, the Y, they had a scuba course.
Oh,
and it was taught by a gentleman named Ray Tussey. And there might be some people out there that could remember this gentleman's name. This guy, he was an ex-UDT guy in the Navy, and he started the Ohio Skin Divers, which I was and still am a charter member. But he taught a course down there. And then actually about 2 years after I went through that course, he ended up dying in a cave. They were diving in a cave with some other people, and he and a few other people died in that cave. But he was a real sharp, good-looking, well-built, well-trained gentleman.
You know, it seems like there's and back in the day, it seems like there's a lot of the SOG guys that were also combat divers or went through Key West. There were a lot of scuba accidents, Vietnam and post-Vietnam, with some of the guys in SOG that I've been reading about. I hate hearing that. That's terrible. But that's interesting. You're already getting a taste of scuba and learning how to do that before you join the Special Forces and all of that, or even the military. That's pretty neat. I don't know of many. I don't think any Ys or anything do anything like that today, to be honest with you. I'm looking here now. You throughout your whole life, motorcycles, cars. I think you even there for a while have a really nice gun collection. But when did cars really? I know at 16, you probably even 15 went crazy. But when did you start really getting an eye for cars and becoming a gearhead, shall we say?
I'd say probably I was around 14.
Oh, okay.
At 15, my father bought me a 32 Ford three-window coupe, not a five-window, but a three-window coupe. But it was a wreck. I mean, there was no motor, no transmission. I mean, it was just a frame and a body. And I started working, and I ended up putting a 50 T-bird converter on it. Four rear end, big slicks in the back, Lincoln left gears in the transmission, prop front axle, and it was really cool. But that ended up burning up in the garage when the garage blew up on me. So,
Oh.
so
No.
without carry the phone and enjoy building it. But I would be building in the garage and doing anything at that time.
We with some of that broke up, but I think it was about building the cars and everything. And I was trying to find. I know I had one of your pictures of one of your pre-Vietnam, and I think it may have been a was it an Austin Healey that you had?
Oh yeah, yeah. I had an Austin Healey. It's black there. It was red when I first got it, but sliding around a corner, I caught a fire hydrant, tore the rear end up, and so when I had it fixed, I had it repainted black. But that put me in the hospital for a few days.
Oh Lord, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, pushing
when
that.
It hit the rear end, it pulled the door jamb back, and I flew out the door and messed up my knees, and they ended up going to the hospital for that. But that.
Jeez, between that and the BSA you had this with the 650 cc motor pushing that thing to 120. I mean, boy, you had the need for speed also. Oh my gosh! And did I know? Did you end up college? What was it? Ohio University or Ohio State that you ended up going
It's
to?
Ohio University in Athens, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ohio State, Ohio University.
Okay. Now, is Ohio University do they have JROTC or anything? Did you
They
start?
had it, but I wasn't involved in it. I just went out for the football team, and of course I got in trouble there. Got thrown in jail there, and the dean finally asked me just to leave the college, and so I did.
That's it seems like most of the guys we've talked to have been politely asked to leave college. A few of them completed, but most of them have been asked to go. What with you in college? When does and I know you end up doing some landscaping for your father, and as I mentioned, the Rendezvous nightclub, and you had actually been through a riot even before college, which is crazy. But when did the Army start becoming up on your radar?
You know what? Probably the first time that song came out, of course, Barry Sadler. That
Yes.
song, and there was a couple other military songs, and I was looking at my life. I said, I'm not really progressing in anything. I was kind of distant, so I thought that might be a good thing for me to do. So, of course, that didn't last. That only lasted a couple of days. But
jeez.
I'm not even sure if I put in a book about what happened there the first time I joined the military. I
don't think you did.
I'll tell you what I did myself, and a good friend of mine, Fred McFadden, great young man. He and I just decided, we need to join the military, and so we went down, signed up, took a couple of tests. Of course, both of us got top honors on all the tests. The tests are very simple, and so they made arrangements for me to take a bus out of Dayton, Ohio, to down to Kentucky, Fort Thomas, Kentucky. That's where they swore you in.
Okay.
And so we left at 7 a.m, got down there, I don't know, about 11 o'clock that morning, and went through the physicals and everything else, and they said, just go wait, and we'll swear you in. So we sat there for like 2 in the afternoon to about midnight. Just sat there with probably 100 other guys. And all of a sudden, he and I started talking. He said, "You know what? If we didn't do this, we'd be up in date now with our girlfriends and stuff like this. Maybe this wasn't such a good move." And so what we did, the restroom was right by the exit. we went act like we wanted to go to the restroom. We hit that exit, we took off running, and they chased us down the street for a while. But we got back on I-75, hitchhiked back up to Dayton. So that was my first experience in the military. So, but then within a year, both of us were actually in the military after that.
Jeez, wow. I thought I remember in the book you had boxing, Fort Knox, and then I thought maybe jump school or in between one of your schools that you actually found out that JFK was assassinated.
For our company. I thought, well, that'd be good. And, I was undefeated, and I fought some pretty good, pretty sharp people. Some of them, I thought, man, but I was lucky. So.
I can imagine those were some slobber knockers back in the day.
Oh, they were, but they were big 16-ounce gloves, so you really couldn't hurt anybody. So.
Oh wow, those are huge. And then you actually are going to jump school, aren't you? When you actually find out that President Kennedy had been assassinated.
I was sitting on the air to fly us to Fort Benning on the Deuce and a half with about another guys, and he had a shot, and I was surprised half the guys on that truck said good. I didn't realize, I wasn't really too much into politics at that time. I wasn't really aware, how good or how bad he was, but he was not well liked to a lot of people.
I'm starting to realize more and more that here I thought people, of course, you've got a large group that always like him, the liberal side and all that, but I thought some of the military people liked him, but then again, I guess you're in Vietnam and this guy's continuing the build up and all that. He's probably not going to be liked too much. But with you completing jump school, AIT, and all of that, I know you end up leaving for a while because, God, I think you end up almost dying in a car wreck, if I'm not mistaken, before you go back and get into the military, and I think go through training group.
Well, actually, that happened, I think, right about the time that I went down to join the first time in the military. So, yeah, I went through a window, and I had broken elbow, knee, the radio out. And I went through the window, and I was the passenger. And the reason I went with the guy that was driving, because I was pretty inebriated, and I thought he was reasonably sober, but he was actually drunker than I was. He actually hit the side of a house.
Oh, Lord.
And he had a brand new Super Sport Chevrolet, which was hot, and he lost control of it. And so I spent some time in the hospital on that one.
You didn't even report it to the Army either, did you?
Well, everybody says, how in the hell did you ever get in the Army with a broken neck? I said, hey, they asked me, you got a neck or back problem? I said, nope. They said, next.
Holy cow. That is.
So I live with that. Well, I still live with it because my neck, I have headaches every day. My neck, I have to turn my shoulder because it's like a lock. And then fighting, boxing, anything, jump, anything you do. They told me never jump off a cliff. We jump off 70 to 100-foot cliffs down Cumberland into water. It never stopped me from doing anything.
Lord have mercy. Wow.
But yeah, I always thought that was funny because everybody's, how in the hell did you get in the military with a broken neck? But like they're hearing at that time, they say, "You hear me?" I said, "Yeah, okay." It wasn't as sophisticated as it is now.
Wow. And so when does Special Forces come up on the plate?
Well, after I got back from my reserve training, I was I went into a Special Forces reserve unit because that's what I wanted to go into. And what I realized after my first problem with the military, and then my second time at the military. When you go to the military, really, they can promise you all you want, but that doesn't really mean anything unless it's the commander of a base that actually signs off on it or something. But in the reserves, I could 1049 for any school I wanted to, go to the same military school, get the training, and come back home and not sit on a base for 3, 4 months, 6 months.
Wow.
And I found that as a big advantage. So that got me a lot of extra training and things like that.
Wow. I had no idea about that. That's I mean, that's pretty heavy duty to be able to drop 1049s and get into to schools that I'm sure guys on active duty are probably on long waiting lists to try and get into, if they're even able to get
into. They always one thing, of course, like when I went to Vietnam, I 1049 for Nam. I mean, I had to go up and see Mrs. A at the Pentagon finally, because they kept getting turned down. Say, no, we need you. We need you to fill a slot there in the reserve unit. You're too qualified and this and that. And they kept turning me down. And so finally, I just got mad, got on a plane, flew up to Mrs. Alexander, who controls all Special Forces operations. They had my 201 file. Walked in. She's an extremely wonderful woman. So nice. And I laid my 201 file down. I said, Miss Alexander, am I Special Forces qualified? She went through my 201 file. She said, well, yes, you're more qualified than most active duty Special Forces. Why do you ask? And I said, and I told her story. I've been trying to go to Vietnam for almost, about 18 months, I guess it took me. Because every time it took 6, 8 months to get it back to me, when you apply. And she had no problem. She gave my file to an E7. He walked down. I had orders with him, I don't know, that day, I think it was, to go. And so sometimes you just got to do it. And boy, I caught hell from the commanders that I had to go back through in reverse to get their signatures, because it was just a matter of procedure. How'd you get ahead of us? Blah, blah, blah. They don't like it when you go around them. So, but I don't care. It's not like I didn't want to go to Vietnam, and I was trying to get out of going. I wanted to go to Vietnam, and I wanted to do my part for the country, which I loved and I still do.
Yeah, if you're going at all the guys that went to Mrs. A, that meant you were not only trying to go to Vietnam, but more than likely you were ending up in SOG. We've come to find out. Yeah. And Mrs. A, awesome, was hoping you'd speak about her. She seems like, from all we've heard, just an outstanding woman.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Wow, that's just neat. And yeah, I can imagine your bosses and having to go back down the chain in reverse. They were none too happy about that.
No, they really weren't. But I didn't really give a crap.
No,
because again, the reason I did this was for the good, not for the bad.
Absolutely, you're
good for my country, and that's the way I look at it.
You're actively fighting to get to Vietnam.
And you got all these riots. You got all these riots and college campuses. All these people burning the flag and stuff. So
just craziness. Yeah, and it's always crazy talking to the guys, both some of the Force Recon guys we've spoke to and the SOG guys that actively had to fight or go behind backs to Mrs. A to get into the fight because they just weren't letting guys go and all of that, which seems very weird at those certain points in times when guys were going 68, 69 and such, but very strange. And I know you have an interesting experience back at Fort Knox. I think you get almost treated like a VIP and get shown around. I think you even have a ride in a tank, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I didn't have a ride in the tank. I got to drive the tank.
Oh, you drove. That's it.
And that is true, because I'm walking out. Much different than my first time at Fort Knox, okay, as a basic training. But I'm wearing jungle fatigues, which is not it's not given to anybody on the post. So I'm the only person on post with jungle fatigue, basically. Green beret, the fifth flash, and everything. And they actually gave me a sergeant to take care of my room for me, things like that. They really treated me good. So, and I remember I talked to the first sergeant. I said, I always wanted to take a ride in a tank. Is there any way I can do that? And he said, go over and see a colonel, full bird colonel. And he introduced me to the sergeant major, his sergeant major. He introduced me to colonel. And I said, I'd sure like to get in a ride in a tank, because that is the tank corps down there at Fort Knox. And he says, yeah, I'll take care of you. And he had the sergeant take me over to the range, and they had a huge range. I mean, rivers and trees and buildings to push down. I mean, mud, water, nasty. And when I pulled in, I remember I said this in a book, when I pulled up to the inside that range, there was a bunch of recruits, maybe 20 guys, just got finished spit shining this tank. I mean, I don't even know what kind it was. It was a big sucker. And they had this second lieutenant there, and he handed me a little helmet and everything. He said, well, come on. I said, fine. And he says, go ahead and move up. Go ahead and sit in the driver's seat. I said, are you serious? He goes, oh, yeah. And so he let me drive it. And I'll tell you what, I scared the shit out of him. He didn't know what to think. And I'll tell you, I don't know what, if you know much about a tank, you have your seat low and go through your scopes, or you can have it up, have your head sticking out. Well, of course, I have my head sticking out all the time, and I'd go through these rivers, and the water would just flood in. I mean, I had that much mud at the bottom of the tank and stuff, and I was just doing everything. And that guy was hanging on for dear life. And I tell you, when I brought that back to the station where the recruits cleaned that tank, you should have seen the look on their face. I really felt bad for him, but that's too bad, But that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
I was about to say, how often do you get to drive a tank?
Absolutely.
Oh man! So
I'm the kind of person I never want to say I wish I would have. So
absolutely,
I had the opportunities to take advantage of it.
That's great. I love that part. So was what was the next stop on your way to Vietnam? Was it Fort Knox and then load a plane to Vietnam, or?
Yes, I had, they gave me all my shots and everything, and next thing I knew, I was on a plane going over.
Wow.
And then I think we landed in Saigon, and then from Saigon, I went up to Nha Trang for that Special Forces, and that's when they, I had to sign in up there, and they said, well, you want to get on an A team or a B team? I said, well, I heard about this unit called SOG. I said, I want to get on SOG. They said, no, you don't want to get on SOG. They said, you do not want to get on SOG. But anyway, I said, yes, I do. And so they said, well, it's really hard to get on. They said, but Omega project, Omega B-50, Omega, they're going to be absorbed into SOG, because SOG's looking for more people to put another FOB up. And the B-50 was in country, 2-man patrols, foreign digs, but that was all in country, where SOG is all out of country. They say if you go to B-50, you'll probably, when it gets absorbed, you will get absorbed right into it, and you'll be in SOG. So that's what I did. And I went up to Pleasure Rang, and that's where I took my first mission as an assistant team leader, Pleasure Rang. And, we spent a week out in the jungle. Just wasn't much. I'm not saying it wasn't. I don't think there was any danger involved in it. And then he did a flyby with all the choppers, gunships, rockets, everything. Went on the when we exfilled down there, to give it kind of a lifelike experience. So that's what happened. And actually, when I went into Pleasure Rang, they put me in a tent. I got there late at night and put me in a tent with like 40 indigenous. And they're all smoking these nasty cigarettes, and I don't smoke. And they're smoking. And I thought, man, they're sure as hell testing me, aren't they? But then the next morning, when I got my gear together and everything, we all had breakfast in the mess tent. And I always carried a bag of rice with some, put some pepper and salt in it, some hot sauce, things like this to eat. But I never will forget. I took the spoon I was eating with, I said, I'm going to take this with me on a mission. And and everything happened all right. That was my lucky spoon. And I've taken down everything, whatever I've done, legal, illegal, whatever. I always carried that spoon with me. I still have it. So I thought about melting it down and making a ring out of it, but I still got that same spoon, and I've never washed it.
That is
So,
wild.
So
Holy cow. That's one lucky spoon right there.
well, that's kind of the way I looked at it. Everybody's got their own thing. So
Absolutely. That's so cool. Before we talk a little bit about the overall scape of the Omega project, I was curious. You had mentioned plagiarizing, and what we know from looking through Colonel Lindsay's books and those that are familiar with Jerry Shriver, he had run a few operations out of there. What was this just a holdover for you going into Omega, or were you officially already in Omega at
I was
plagiarizing?
officially in Omega. At plagiarizing, I was actually in Omega.
Okay.
And then they moved us up to Pontoon.
Oh,
And I pulled one mission as a assistant team leader in Pontoon. One mission
wow.
there.
Okay, so
And then
plagiarizing.
and then they moved us down to Bamituit, CCS. So
Wow.
and
Very interesting.
and they made me 1-0 team leader. So I was a team leader for well over 45 missions. I don't know exactly. I wanted to try to get. I never made 50. That for some reason, myself and all the guys, what you've mentioned in your letter here, Lawson and Pope and all those guys, everybody, Carly, everybody had wanted to get 50 missions, but I didn't get 50. But one of the reasons because they made me an instructor in the first team leader school.
Yes, sir.
Which I really didn't want to do. And the colonel just, you got to do it. You got to do it. And of course, I got a lot of nice letters from Chief SOG and other people about it. And actually, I trained these 6 gentlemen troopers. They were all great except one guy. I failed one guy.
Oh, wow.
And I found out, about maybe 6 months later that he was on another team as an assistant. And he ended up calling the gunship on himself.
Oh,
His team and killed them all.
geez.
But he just never had. He just never knew where he was. You let him take turns. Yeah, that's the picture. I'm the one of the black fatigue. But he just never knew where he was, and coordinate wise or anything. And so, and I hated to fail. I just don't like to fail anybody. You know what I mean? Especially when you're there wanting to do that type of work. But I just said, this guy's not ready yet. So I didn't know what, if they ran him back through another school or what. But anyway, that's what I was told.
Was there's several things on this. Was this run out of Pontoon, the 1-0 school?
No, out of Saigon. Off of Saigon, there was it's a top secret camp. I'm trying to think the name
Was
of it.
it Camp Longton already?
I think it was. I think that was
Wow.
it. Yes.
Okay, that would make sense. I didn't know if they had moved it already to Longton. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was the first school, and like I say, I was picked to be one of the first NCOs to teach it. I mean that's a feather in my cap in one way, but I just wanted to be out in the field. I lost probably, I don't know, 3 missions because of that. That's the way I looked at it.
People don't realize. Jerry Shriver and Baby Son Davidson get a lot of talk, but people don't realize how many guys at CCS / Project Omega had a lot of missions, over 30, 40, 50, 60. I mean, a lot of missions. Geez Louise.
Yeah, Baby Son, of course, he was killed.
Yes, sir.
He was a great guy. And Shriver, we were all together up there. Shriver was a nice guy. He was all right. He'd do some wild things. He'd bring tigers back from Taiwan and stuff when he'd go over there. Because the C-130 Blackbirds sponsored us. They're the ones that, they're Shriver. But they would go over there and get their service, these C-130 Blackbirds. and they're very top secret. Nobody can get around them, but they would let us ride over there to Taiwan while it was being serviced. Then they would get service in 3 to 5 days. So we'd all get, 3 to 5 day trip over there. I bought, I think, 6 tailor-made suits while I was there, things like that. But it was interesting. But that's just one of the perks that you get for being in SOG.
Wow. That's so cool. Then I'll and guys, I see all these questions, and I'll save them if we don't end up doing a Q&A. Those are some really good ones, Dan.
Also, to talk to you about the getting to teach the first class.
Mm-hmm.
After basic training, I was expected to go to Fort Leonard Wood for demolition and engineering training.
Oh yes, that's right.
Well, I got my orders, which was to Fort Leonard Wood, but wasn't had anything to do with the training. And I thought, what is this? Well, it was a leadership preparatory course. They had what they thought the top recruits coming out of all the basic training. There was like maybe 30 of us, 20 or 30 of us. They gave us a 4-week condensed course on what normally we would be going through, so we could help train the people that we're going through with. So everything was really, it was long days learning this stuff that they do. And so, about that, and then when I got into my AIT, I was acting first sergeant, and I had the first platoon. So that means I came out first in the
school.
In that school.
Wow.
And that was kind of nice, And another thing they do, some of the training I was in, they had people sign up. Which person would you rather be in combat with? And I was always the top. But people said they would want to be in combat with me, and that made me feel good, real good. Matter of fact. So
wow, they absolutely, that has to. Geez.
We bypassed all that, but I thought I'd bring that back because we're talking about another school. So
no, absolutely. As I said, anything that you feel like sharing, for by all means, please share, and especially we'll have you here for 4 times if we forget or a few times if we forget something, we'll definitely get it back. Could you let me ask you this question, where we've just hit the 43-minute mark. I was going to ask, maybe talk a little bit about what the overall scope of Omega was, and I was going to see some of the guys have some really interesting questions, although we've not covered any missions yet. Maybe if we could do a questions to close out with, and then do missions for part 2.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
Well,
I enjoy the questions.
Okay. Well, how about for this part, as we go to lead into questions from the viewers, what when you first got either to Plagerang or wherever you got your initial briefing, what was the overall scope and mission that Omega was tasked with?
Well, again, Omega was just like SOG, except SOG was cross-border, which would be North Vietnam, Laos, or Cambodia. Okay, we were allowed to do that. All right, well, supposedly allowed to do. B-50 or Omega, that was in-country missions. All those countries were in-country, and of course, when you're in country, you can have, you can have fast movers, A1Es, choppers. You can have a lot more material to help you out with, as far as that's concerned too. But that was the main thing of B-50. It's basically the same missions. You're going out with the same type of people. Now, again, we used all our mountain yards, which were great people. And I tell you, when Saigon fell and everything, I thought, man, those poor yards, because they were the ones that would be targeted by the North Vietnam, because they were just great soldiers. They fought like hell. Oh, like Ne Boon. That was a matter of fact. We talked about him coming home with me. We thought about putting paperwork in that. We would walk around camp. He always liked to hold my hand, but he always followed me in my team. He was right behind me in the team lineup. Manqua was my point man, and he was mean. I don't think I ever saw him smile. But Nate Boone, he smiled all the time, and he was sharp. And some of the missions that I'll get into later, I mean, when I stay behind and send the team on to get on a chopper, he would not leave my side. He was like having a Doberman. I mean, he just fought like hell, and unfortunately, he got killed when I was home on extension leave. And but anyway, the Montagnards were just great people. And to talk about the Montagnards, and I even mentioned this to my wife and other friends of mine. I said, American comes over there in their country. Now they've lived over there. Now they've been fighting over there their entire life, and then they bring some yo-yo like me in charge of it. I mean, you know what I mean, and deciding where we're going to go, where the LZ is going to be, and when we're going to exfil, the way we want to move through the jungle. I mean, and they listen to you. And I think myself, I don't think I could do that if I was them. I'd say, I'm not listening to this dumbass. Let him get in the back. Listen to us, because we've been doing it all our life. But they were great people, and they were responsive. And I tell you, they listened 100%. Again, like I said in my book, the only thing they would ever do wrong, the only thing, if you give them their food a day ahead of time, they eat it all. I remember the first time I get ready to go on this mission, and Nate Boone came up to me and said, "We don't have any food." I said, "What happened to all that food I gave you?" Well, we ate that. So we had to delay the mission a couple hours to get them stocked back up with food. But you just can't trust. You can trust them with anything else, weapons, anything else, but you can't trust them with food.
That is too good. That's hilarious. So you pretty much picked up and carried on pretty quick and got along right off the bat with your guys.
Yes, I did. That's what I'm saying, and it surprised me. But of course, it seems like, again, I had a lot of missions, and I came out, 30-some times under fire, but I never lost a man. And the only person I ever got wounded was myself and Mang Ben, and that was at almost my last mission. That's when I got shot.
Yes. And
Mang Ben got shot in the wrist, and he said one of the Americans I took, I had to take a third American out. He said the third American shot him because we were in a hell of a firefight, and he said he was behind him and shot him through the wrist, and it was ugly, buddy. I tell you.
I think I read you.
And and I was proud of that, and again, I treated my people great. Just I started a business when I got back from Africa and had 42 employees. I treated my employees just like I want to get treated, and they still call me on my birthdays. They send me stuff. We're still in communication, and I treat everybody the way I want to get treated, and I paid them well. I had the Teamsters come in, try to, organize everybody, and we never had any problem because, again, this was 20, 30 years ago, and I was paying my top people over $22.
Wow.
And again, I take them to baseball games every year, one or two Cincinnati Reds games with a bus with supplied everything. Took them $10,000 to $15,000. Got houseboats, sea-doos. Well, I'm just saying, my wife and I are both that way. And they also saw, and I guess what this relates to, they also saw that myself and my wife would do the same things they're doing, only we would do it better. We would work with, it wasn't like big me, little you stuff, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people, I'm the boss, I can't get dirty or something like this. So, and they saw how we started the business. The first person I hired in a 10x10 store in our garage stayed with me for the entire 20-some years when I sold the business.
Wow.
So, I mean, so they saw how we worked. My wife would work when she was pregnant. She had the baby. We had her in a cardboard box, pulled her through the plant with us. But anyway, that's another story at the end. Wow. But anyway, the yards, I guess, for some reason, they respected me, and they respected my decisions, which way to move, when to move, what to do, where to set up your ROM positions. And never had any disgruntled problem with it whatsoever. So it's wow. I just can't say enough for them to allow someone, it's an outsider, to come in and teach them. Now, I don't know if I don't think I've ever heard of any of the tall guys having a problem with their team.
At least none that I've spoke to. There was a few, shall we say, attempted infiltrators that quickly got snooped out and dealt with from some guys that I've talked to. But
Right.
overall, no, they would fight and die right there with them and treated them like brothers. And like you said, always holding hands, and it came one of the tribes, so to speak.
There, now that you mentioned that, I remember I've heard a couple of cases where a team would leave the Americans, that maybe during a fight or saying, I guess they didn't feel that they were doing the right thing or something, but the team would leave, leave them alone. But I think that was one time I heard that.
Yeah.
All the time I was over there.
Yeah.
Like I said, they were just great people, and of course, they were persecuted. The North Vietnamese, and they know who they are, because all the tribe people, they'll tell on them but of course, those guys all got paid by weapons they bring back and kills too.
Yeah.
So maybe that's one reason they like me, because I don't know.
Yeah, we'll on part 2, there's quite an interesting, and we'll actually have some photos of the mission where y'all come across buku amount of weapons that actually y'all can't get all of them out, that y'all have to dispose of a neat way.
They said that was the largest weapon cache, well, in Cambodia anyway. Oh, it was unbelievable.
Oh, there's
that mission, that was a weird mission, but when we got right down to doing it, we had 60 pounds of C4. And the colonel says, "Man, don't do the mission," because it was empty when we first saw it. And when we came back 3 or 4 days later with a supported team with demolition, there were 3 or 4 guys in there, NVA, cleaning it and stuff, getting it ready to be picked up by a company coming through. And so they said, "Abort the mission." Colonel ordered me, "No, do not go." I said, "Look, we're going to wait." And I waited until they went next door, a little hoots, and had their lunch, and we stuck in the back door and blew it.
Holy cow.
Got out clean. And again, you saw pictures of the weapons we brought out. So we had 2 teams, and every guy was carrying 1 or 2 weapons. And I never forget, the pilot called me to his window when we were going out of the last ship. He said, "Man, I'm not sure I'm full. We're going to dump some of these weapons." I said, "Just go ahead and take off. Leave me here. Have a gunship come in and pick me up." And just when we saw the NVA break through up over a knoll there, a gunship came in and picked me up, and I was glad.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to be a hero or anything, but I mean, just, it's very important to get the weapons out of there, get out, and get the mission done. It's just something I really enjoy doing. It's one of the best times. My sister told me that's the happiest she's ever known me to be, is like when I was in Vietnam.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell these are some new and cleaned up and ready to go weapons. RPDs, SKSs,
4 or 5 122s. There's a 51 caliber. They are nice stuff.
Man.
And I tell you a funny story about that too. When we got back, Nate Boone says, "Jim," he said, "why did you get some of those pistols?" And I said, "What pistols?" "Well, there was a box laying underneath, because this was a 2-story. There was a box underneath, good sized box." And he says, "Those were all brand new pistols." I said, "Oh, if I'd known that, man, I'd have brought those back. Just to bring back, everybody would have one of those." Well, we blew them up, but you wonder why I didn't bring those pistols back.
Were they
I can't read Chinese, you know what I mean?
Oh, wow. Man, that would have been,
oof. Yeah, that'd been really nice.
It would have, man. Yeah, guys,
y'all are hit on stuff. I get thinking about these things.
Just make
I gotta say
sometimes.
before I forget them again at my age. So
that's guys, and y'all are gonna be amazed at some of these operations that Mr. Jim and Auger pulled off. But I've got one more questions, and we'll get to some of these great viewer questions. When did from Project Omega, you mentioned in-country recon, when did it officially switch over to where Omega or CCS, or if Omega started cross-border operations, when did that begin? Was that 68 or?
Well, no, I'm thinking, I went over there in 67, like October. It might have even been December because, I pulled one mission at Pleasure, and then I pulled one mission at Khartoum, which was CCC. Okay.
Mhm.
And it was not, I don't think that was SOG at that time. But as soon as we moved to CCS, Bambi to it, that's when we're in SOG.
Wow. Okay.
And,
That would.
that, the best I can remember, and that's going to be close. But there wasn't like an official, we didn't switch flags or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of, what they wrote down on your paperwork.
Wow. Yeah, that's
And
exactly.
our commanders never changed anything. So.
Wow. That's why Project
But one of the
Omega.
things, one of the big changes, though, I remember when we moved to CCS, we had the 20th Air Force
Mm,
uh, uh,
the
support
Green Hornets.
versus Green Hornet versus the Army. And I'll tell you what, those guys, you talk about people that got a lot of gonads. I mean, I've got on many choppers and seen like an old lieutenant colonel sitting there, take them around to the windshield because I came out under fire like 30 sometimes or whatever it was. And they just, and you never had to worry about them coming in. Never had to worry about them leaving you. And, I hear these horror stories about things like that, people getting left or there's too hot of an LZ. I mean, those guys go through hell to come in and get you. I mean, they were just great. And I've gone to a couple of reunions that they've had with my wife, and they always say, "Oh shit, we knew when we had a mission with RT Auger and Jim, it's going to be a hot one. We better have all our weapons clean and get ready for a hot exfil because that's what we'd have." And of course, I like the fact that they did say that they knew that. I think even Colonel Lindsay made a comment about, after my mission was completed, if I had a chance to get in a firefight, I would certainly take it. So.
That's a great photo of you, and I think there's another photo of you actually out with them
Yes.
on the gun shooting.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're wearing a headset. Of course, the pilot turns the weapon on for you, and then he also, I think it's 3,000 rounds a minute, and then 6,000 rounds a minute, something like that. There's two settings on that weapon, and I remember they said there's a truck down there, Jim. You want to shoot it up? I said, yes, sir. And he says, okay, you're hot. And then he turned it on to 6,000 rounds, and it's amazing. And another thing about those miniguns, God, when you're down on the LZ getting taken out and the gunships fly over top of you, I mean, they just rain those expelled
Shells.
bullet casings. I mean, it's just like someone throwing hot lead on you.
Ooh.
Of course, that's a good feeling. They're not having it, but the 20th, those people were absolutely great. And again, they were all older. The pilots were older. The crew chief, the gunners, they were all, instead of being younger people like they were in the military or the Army, which didn't make them better because they were older, but they just had a lot of experience. And they were a specialized Air Force unit, just like we were a specialized military unit. So.
Oh yeah, as the
They
war.
were like the special forces of the Air Force.
I was just fixing to say later on in the war by 69, 70, 71, I mean, these guys were carrying Car 15s. They were dressing and looking like SOG guys. I mean, they were essentially SOG guys in the air for all intents and purposes. They were a bad bunch.
Yes, they were. Well, they were just dedicated. And, I've never seen any fear on them, any of them. And there were any questions. I knew when I got on the radio or told my radio man to bring them in, I knew they were coming.
That's
the only time they didn't do a good job when they drug me to that enemy camp and dropped me down that APC. That's later on.
Yeah.
So.
All righty, let's hit these questions because we just hit the hour mark. I guess we can talk about this. That won't get into too much of a mission, but Daniel was curious, What was the most intense or memorable combat experience during your time with SOG?
Well, it says with Omega.
Omega.
But Omega, again, I only had 2 operations. They were in country, and they were reconnaissance. And the first one was like a training mission, so there was nothing. And the second one, we saw some trails with some movement on it and everything, but it was not. And again, I was a radio man on that one, the 1-1, so, or the 1-2. I don't even remember. I don't even remember anymore. 0-0-1-0. But actually, one of my hairiest things by far, in getting shot and blown up and all that stuff, there's nothing compared to this one I just got finished saying about being drugged through an enemy camp. It was late at night. It was a wiretap. The team was in there and they found a wiretap, and they wanted they radio back. We found a wire, and that's huge. When you find a wire, that's just huge. And so myself and Bill Krosky, Lieutenant Krosky, and he was a warrior too. We came up with a plan. Told Colonel. She can't think of his name.
Wasn't Turbo. That was
Treview.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, and we wanted to repel in late at night, at 2:00 in the morning or something like that, with one of these specialized units, recording units that we had, that you actually plant sensors underneath the wire. You don't have to do a hard tap or even a temporary tap. It's all automatic, and it sends that information up to you to a C-130 Blackbird that monitors it 24/7. And that was a specialized piece of equipment. Of course, we were all trained on that. And so the deal was that the team was supposed to, when they heard the chopper, they were supposed to do a strobe light. So because they were in between 2 big units, so they weren't really close, supposedly, to a unit. And we were going to drop in on that strobe light. Well, what happened is the pilot saw a campfire, thought that was a strobe light, and we jumped on the top of that. Of course, it was an enemy compound, and Jesus, it was. And I remember I hit the ground, and of course, what you use 2 big sandbags on your rope to throw down, so it goes to the canopy, so you're not landing on top of a 100-foot tree. And it goes to, and also another thing about the sandbags, which is good, if you get wounded or killed, they usually get your body back. Okay, they jerk you back out. So I just had my snapper like half open, pulling the rope loose, and they jumped on me, and then they started firing at the chopper, and the gunship told the chopper, "Man, you're under fire." You could see rounds coming up and everything. Well, instead of just lifting me straight up, and Lieutenant Krosky, Bill, he gained speed, going parallel to the ground, and drug us. Oh, geez, that scared the crap out of me. I mean, I was knocking over trees just big around. It seemed like fire pits and everything. And it just, I lost the top of my hand. I had 3 of my ribs broken out, crushed, and everything. Of course, all scarred up. They broke us out of the canopy, got us up maybe, 500, 600 feet. And the gunships came in, put their lights on us to see if we were still alive and everything. Well, Bill, lucky guy, he was knocked out right away. He was hanging upside down in a Swiss seat, about 20 feet in front of me. And I always kidded him. I said, "See, my rope stretched out more than you because I hit more things on the ground than you did." I always gave him heck about that. But
gosh.
Anyway, when they put lights on us, I started checking myself out to see how bad I was. And I looked down at my snap link, and it was not snapped. I had just got it open, but the rope kept me from getting completely open. And I'll tell you, I thought, oh, Jesus. And there's nothing I could do. I mean, I'm underneath that chopper. I mean, they can't land. I couldn't talk to them. There's no way I could talk to them and anything else. And I had like an hour and a half or 2-hour flight to get back to the border. And I thought, well, the thing's going to break, and I'm just going to fall down, from 1,000 or 2,000 feet. I don't know what height they were flying, but I just thought my life was over right there. There was just no doubt in my mind that it's going to snap and break, and it didn't. But that wasn't hardly the worst part. The worst part, when they finally came to the camp along the border, was an APC camp, a company where they had their APCs all lined up, and of course they had their concertina wire and all their lights and stuff. And I could see the camp. I thought, I was looking down at that concertina wire, the razor wire. I thought, it's going to break right on top of that wire. What? It's going to break and drop me in the concertina wire, and it didn't. So the next thing I know, and of course, when you're trailing, when you're hanging underneath the chopper, your feet are behind you. That your back is towards the front. You fly backwards like that's the way the wind directs your body. And next thing I know, I'm looking on both sides of me, and I'm seeing all these tracks go flying by me. I thought, Jesus Christ! Now he's going to slam me in the side of an APC. Well, my heels hit the track, flipped me down inside the APC, and of course, it had, I think, 4 to 6 guys sleeping in there. So they put a tent over top of it. That's where they sleep. And I came crashing through there wearing all black and everything, and they jumped on me and started beating the shit out of me. And I couldn't breathe because my ribs, the whole top of my hand was gone. And I'm cursing at them and everything. And then next thing I know, the chopper, some of the Air Force guys came running, opened up the tailgate, came in, helped me out. And I remember the guy said, "Who the fuck was that guy? Who was that guy?" But I'll tell you what. And the thing is, that's another thing. Bill, for some reason, he put Bill in the center of the road and put me right on the track. Now, I don't understand why. And the part, I thought he liked me, but I don't know. But there's a shot. Yeah, you see the top of my hand. And, I just, but anyway, that was probably one of the few missions that I really get cold chills about. Over all the time being surrounded, shot at, and should have never come out of, walking through a whole camp in the rain. At one mission I did, we didn't know it, but it was raining so hard. Also, we saw all those little lights around us. We walked right through an enemy camp.
Oh my God.
I remember they would say, "Which way?" I said, "Hell, I don't know. Keep going straight." We just walked right through it. And I'll tell you how we took care of that later on the next morning. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't bring some heat on that camp.
Oh,
nobody really did. But anyway, that's probably one of my hairiest missions. It's scary because I had absolutely no control. Every other mission on the ground, I was in control. I knew I could go where I wanted to go. I could pick the LD. I could tell the choppers how to come in. I could tell my team how to set up, everything. But that I had absolutely no control. It'd be just like being drugged down the interstate, tied to a car with a 200-foot rope. I mean, and knocking over everything. That is, I'm talking about it now. I hope you can tell that scared the crap out of me. And it still does. And I still can't lay on my face like on the ground or the sand, or even in bed, because my ribs, I got big knots on them and it hurt. But anyway, that's it.
Oof,
that didn't hurt my broken neck. So
there you are doing this with a bro.
But anyway.
Daniel, a good question here again. He's got quite a few. How did you deal with fear and uncertainty while deep in enemy territory?
Well, see, that's again. I told you, my sister said that's the happiest I've ever been. It takes a certain person to be in SOG. Mm-hmm. No question about it. I mean, I don't care if you only had one mission. It takes a certain person to be in SOG. I mean, if you got any fear, if you fear that, the only thing I feared was getting I told my family, I said, I will not be captured because I'm not going to be tortured. I'm afraid I might give up. I give them anything you want to do. I can't, the thought of being tortured and some things that they did to people, I would go down fighting, if I had to put myself down. That was always the way I believed. Again, just like on the flight to your LZ, I mean, I would sit there, I always had a penthouse or something I would look through, or I had a little book I would read. I mean, I was totally relaxed. And then,
that's crazy.
And then on the way to the LZ, of course, the chopper is guided by the FAC above because the chopper doesn't know where it is, and he's the one that directs it. And of course, they have to go at treetop level where actually trees are actually hitting the struts. And, I'd be standing out there, trees would be slapped up against my legs and stuff. But you had to be low because it goes over an area so fast, the enemy, if there is enemy there, they don't have a chance to respond and shoot at the chopper. It's gone before, by the time you realize it, the thing's gone. Where if you're up high, they can shoot at it. But even then, I couldn't wait to get on the ground and then jumping off that and running to the cover. You always wonder, am I running right into the enemy? You never know. So, but I don't know. I just loved it, and that's the reason I kept doing it. And I don't know. I wouldn't say I didn't have any fear, but it was good fear, if there is such a thing. Wow. But that's how I handle it.
Yeah, it's definitely a special breed.
Most people handle it that way. You can't. They were all great warriors.
Yeah, it's a special breed to be a SOG, man. That's for sure. Daniel, what was the process for gathering and reporting intel once you had completed a mission?
Well, okay, on every mission, you carry your map with the combat acetate on it and everything, and you have your proposed movement, so your FAC knows which way you're heading, unless there's some change, which you would radio back, code up a message with the CAC 199, which was the code book that we used. But you sit down and you've got this little book, and then you say, at so and I tell you, I was very good about the contour lines on a map. I knew where I was all the time. Some of the missions, people said, well, you never find your way back. Well, I always did. But I mean, to find those weapons, well, everybody said, well, he'll never be able to find that place because he moved away for 2 weeks or a week. But anyway, I always knew where I was, and the streams showed up, and they were always where I thought they were going to be. So you write all that stuff down, your direction movement, coordinates on the map. If you cross the trail, you let people know. You write down what kind of movement you think it is. You have your guesstimate, and then you have your team, the yards, and they know. And you write that down, movement, what direction, and everything. And that's if you're not on a trail watch now. And then if you cross the stream, you give an idea of the size of the stream. Is 6 inch, 18 inches, 3 foot, 4 foot, direction of the water. Water clear, is the water cloudy, and things like this. You take samples of leaves, you talk about the trees and everything like that about it. You put all this together in your book. Every time you take a break, and we would take a break probably every maybe 15 minutes to half an hour. And the main reason to break is not because you needed a break. You have to sit and listen, because there's been times that we'd stopped and without realizing we're right next to a unit or people moving on a trail, because the jungle, most of the jungle is pretty heavy. So then you go back, and then they debrief you. It takes a few hours to debrief you. And then, of course, if you're in a firefight, then that takes longer and stuff. I remember I asked one of the commanders one time in the intelligence, I said, why do you want about the trees and about the lake and rivers and all this other stuff and the soil? And he said, well, in case they do a big overall map, and you got this little section, and another team's got this little section. They put all that together, and like they say, if they ever want to invade that country, where can we put up a base? Where's the best place to do the roads? Where can we get fresh water? It's all part of the intelligence. It isn't all the beauty of just watching enemy soldiers. It's part of the terrain intelligence also.
Wow, that's not many people. As you start investigating, of course, you realize that y'all aren't out there just running and gunning and shooting and all that. That you're literally being somewhat nerdy and writing everything down, collecting samples. I mean, every possible thing matters. Haircuts on guys, new uniforms. Do they look well fed?
There's no question about that. How when you are on our trail watching, if the guys are laughing, are they smiling, and how do they look? Do they look like they're downtrodden, or do they look like they're positive? Or, and again, weapons, what type of weapons, how they're moving, or direction of movement, how many, are they a point element, are they the rear element? I mean, that's all the fun intelligence to me. The other stuff wasn't as much fun, but it's something that they required, so we did it.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
This is an interesting tie-in. Do you ever feel like your team's intel that you gave was ever ignored or misused in any way?
I'll tell you what, that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that's a great question, because remember, I think I told you how you always knew that when you called for help, you were going to get help. You never had a commander say, well, tell them to try to break contact. I've heard stories from different teams up north. They tell you to break contact. Well, when we get into an area, if we get in clean and they don't know we're in there yet, we've got the ball in our court. We're in a good positive position. But when they know we're coming or know we're in there and they're hunting for you and they put dogs on you and stuff like that, that's you're in a real weak position there. So I never asked for anything that I didn't get. I mean, never. I mean, it just and as far as intel, again, some of the big missions, I know that went through because I'd have to go down to Saigon and tell people what I did and show them the pictures and how I did this and that. Some higher up, which is Op 35, which is like the CIA and stuff like that. So that one place, that one mission with the wiretap, I think you saw Colonel Lindsay even mentioned that they brought in B-52s. They said that mission saved 2,000 to 4,000 American lives. And then of course we know we got the intel on the big gun cache because we brought the weapons back with us. You know what I mean? So no, I never felt that it wasn't acted upon or used.
Yeah, I was about to say.
And again, excuse me for interrupting you.
Go ahead.
You got to remember, like Colonel Lindsay said, when my mission was over, if I had a chance to make contact, I always made contact. So I always made sure that when on an after action report that the gunships had to come in and had to do this. So you couldn't hide. You can't hide missions like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely. I know. I know on one that and I think two that you and I think Cecil were taken down to meet Chief SOG because of the intel y'all gathered, and we'll be getting into some of those missions in part 2, guys. Some of these questions on mission parts we're going to save for part 2. We've got a few more since we're at the hour 20 mark, but I'll save these because these are great.
Tell your viewers I appreciate that. I appreciate the questions.
Oh, absolutely.
So far have been, very good questions.
They're great, and
questions I would want to know if I were in their shoes. So.
Absolutely, and some of these other ones are going to be great when we actually start talking about you on the ground and all of that. And guys, I've already saved these onto the StreamYard chat, so do not worry about that. They'll be first up next go around. This is interesting talking about because we've seen SOG, Omega, and the various CNCs use different camouflage or guys with their own brand or style that they like to use. What did you feel? Fatigue, the OD green, the tiger stripe, the ERDL camouflage. Which one of those did you like and use the most? And which of the three worked the best in your opinion?
I just wore mostly the standard fatigues, the OD green. That I wore mostly. But there were times I'd wear a green top with black pants. Other times I'd wear a black top with green pants. Anything that will break up your overall pattern. If someone's looking through a bunch of, it's looking through the jungle, it doesn't show a complete figure if you break it up in 2 different colors. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I do that sometimes. But mostly I just wore the old regular green fatigues.
This question comes up. Of course, you're seen in one of the famous photos with Mr. Llewellyn. Did y'all wear tiger stripes across the border?
I don't think I ever wore tiger stripe. No, I don't think. No, I don't think I did. Because first of all, like right there, there's old Thomas. Yeah. First of all, those were kind of heavy. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can even tell by looking at where he folded the sleeve up. Right? Yes, they were kind of heavy versus the other ones, the other standard ones.
Mhm.
But I mean, those are nice. I mean, I brought all those home with me. Yeah.
Oh wow.
But those are nice. But no, I don't think I ever wore those across border. Truthfully.
It seems like I guess in South Vietnam, in some areas that they blended in well, but for where you guys and the other two CNCs were, it seemed like the ODs with just the spray painting that y'all did worked so well, breaking up camouflage compared to the Tigers and such. Um, let me see here if we're getting stuff dealing without oh, this one's interesting because you have a great watch photo. Did Jim get into watches and jewelry like some of the other guys? Some guys like Billy had several different Rolexes through his career, while others like Tilt didn't seem to care too much about the watches. How about you?
All right. When I had done a training group before I left Vietnam, out of the PX, I bought a Zodiac Seawolf, which is a silver watch, and it's good for diving, like 600 and some feet, and things like that. And I wore that about half the time that I was in Vietnam. When I went on one of the little special flights, I bought this Rolex. Actually, I bought two of them. I bought one for my father and one for myself, and I've been wearing this thing ever since. This is the only watch that I want. Very recognizable watch. I mean, you watch movie stars, anybody that's athletic, they usually wear, like my youngest son, the one that played professional football. I mean, he wears one of these digital watches and all this stuff that does all kinds of things. And, I don't know, but I have no interest. This is the kind of watch I want to wear, and it signifies special forces quite a bit. So that's and a lot of guys went to Taiwan and bought gold because gold was really cheap over there. A lot of guys would come back with big gold necklaces and things like that. But I had no interest in that. So no, the only thing I wore was this. I did have a gold earring in my pierced ear because I tried that. The Mountain Yard tried once I got 100 confirmed kills, you get a gold earring. So we got drunk on rice wine. They stuck a reed in my ear and stuck a gold earring in it. Matter of fact, I coming back from one of my extension leaves, Chicago Airport, I bumped into some hippies up there in the airport, and they were laughing at Green Beret and talking about my earring, and that didn't end well for them. Unfortunately, the cops didn't put me in jail; they just let me go to my flight. So, but anyway,
wrong guy to be talking about an earring with. Is this your Rolex you're wearing right here in the field?
Yes, that's the same one.
Same one. And I didn't see, but I thought I saw offline. Is that the Pepsi Cola, the red and the blue head on it?
Yes. It's faded. It's faded now, but it is. I don't know if you can see it.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah, you can.
But it's faded quite a bit.
That's my favorite Rolex.
Well, it is to me. I remember this watch that came out. It was a big silver watch. This is now after I was out of the military. You push a button, it would light up, tell you the time. And I've got one of those. I like that. That was a pretty cool watch for it. That's when I was in the nightclub business. But I wore it for a while. But my wife always laughed because we would be making out or something, and if I wanted to know what time it was, I'd take it. She said whenever I did that, she knew I was pushing the button on the watch with my nose. She always laughs about that. So. But I still got that watch. But and I still have my Zodiac Seawolf too.
Wow, that's so cool. I'm glad to see you guys that kept it. I've heard horror stories of ex-wives or floods or fires damaging stuff that just breaks my heart. You guys losing your stuff like that. Yeah, I speaking of the chains and the earrings, maybe next episode I'll dig some out of the CCS photo albums that I've just recently been gifted, and I'll show y'all some of the CCS bling that the guys had. I've got some of the earring shots and some of the big gold bot chains that I'll
I know. The guys would come back with chains big around as your thumb.
Like the Mr. T starter kit almost.
Yeah.
All right, guys, y'all have got some really good ones, but if we start doing these are going to just tie in so much with the missions that we're going to be getting into. I hate to really do that. Let me see and make sure. We'll close this out. This one won't give away too much. We'll do this and we'll close out because it deals with the other ones are mission oriented so much. Did you ever encounter any Soviet, Chinese, or other foreign advisors while operating in Vietnam?
One mission, I'm trying to think what Boone told me here. This guy was speaking. I think he was speaking French. There was one guy speaking French. We shot him, and he was dying speaking French, and we couldn't get to him because we were 6 of us against. I think there was 120 of them, but he was out front, so he was some kind of an advisor. But I remember Boone said he was speaking French. Of course, I couldn't tell what the hell he was speaking because I don't know French or any of that. So, but that's the only time. But I mean, I've heard of that and things. Now, there was one mission that I pulled, and we can get into that later. But I walked into a camp that had some NVA in it with Boone, and I had my point man's AK-47, and we wanted to get some information because they couldn't find this one trail. So I just went right in, and remember I got the mission. I think the commander and everybody came out to the chopper to get me with a wheelbarrow. I said, "What's that wheelbarrow for?" They said, "To put your balls in."
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we went in to find out what it is, some kind of a special trail, and they found it, and they blew it up. But anyway, and Boone said, "Well, I think he said I was a Russian or something," and I just squatted down over in the corner, and good thing that nobody knew Russian or anything, and tried to get me to talk about it.
That is a hairy mission. I had actually forgotten about that researching, and I'm going to add that one to our list because that is, and literally the little subheader of the chapter, guys, is called the wheelbarrow.
Yeah. Again, it wasn't that big a deal. I mean, the mission, there was no firefight or anything like that, but
it was pretty hairy. It got pretty hairy at the end there. Yeah, guys, these are great. I'm gonna save these for part 2 because, as you can tell, Mr. Jim's got some hairy and really great combat stories and a lot of time over the fence that some of these animal stories and all of that will deal with so well. So I've saved these, and we're going to save that for part 2 and part 3. So, that lightning about shut the power off here.
Okay.
Mr. Jim, is there anything you would like to conclude with for part 1 before we shut it down?
No, the only thing is, Bud, I want to thank you for your interest in some of the things I've done, and thank you for the support for SOG, because again, SOG never really got the recognition that it deserved. Although, now that we got a presidential citation and all that stuff, and now if you get into SOG, because as you see the hat that I wear, I got that SOG patch, and I have a SOG sticker on my car, and people just, there you go. I saw it before, yes. People say, "Well, what's SOG? What's SOG?" And I think I told you, well, SOG is Special Operations Group. Oh, what kind of instrument you play? You know what I mean? Yeah, people have no idea. But
I want to thank you also, not only at being a vet coming on and sharing part 1 and getting into part 2 and 3, but I want to thank you for coming as a Project Omega vet and a CCS vet, because in my opinion, a lot of the vets won't like this. It's just my opinion. No vets have said this, and I'm not voicing other opinions. Mine strictly. CCS and Project Omega were really the redheaded stepchild. No pun intended. You're a redhead.
I'm a redhead, right?
Yes, sir.
Y'all got left is red anyway.
Yeah, y'all did not get the due diligence and the recognition, in my opinion, that the other 2 CNCs did. Awards. There were a lot of Medal of Honors missions that should have been awarded out of CCS that the COs did not want to break the secrecy clause. So anytime we can have a CCS veteran on, I absolutely love it to get y'all a little bit of
every award I got was knocked down. I mean, you know, I had 4 silver stars, and they were all knocked down. I mean, you know, because you don't do it for, well, of course you do it in a way for to show that you've been there and done that. So, and and it's nice being recognized for that. Like I said, every person that then SOG should get some kind of special award. Just the fact that they're in SOG and doing missions now. I don't mean, you know, I'm talking about recon people.
You cross the border.
I don't want to knock any of the regular military people that fought in Vietnam.
No.
But SOG was just such a special thing, and I tell you, you're your own commander, and to be able to command fast movers, gunships, B-52 strikes, and have people actually react on it for you when you're doing that on ground. I mean, it's phenomenal. Like I told my wife, man, the power that gives you in a way, and also the support and the people behind you. And again, 20th Squadron,
20th SOS, yes, sir.
Yeah, SOS. I mean, and again, our commanders and everybody. There was never a question. And again, but on the other hand, you know, I can tell you stuff that I got away with. Travel around the country, even though I was in Vietnam, and you know, my commander would know about it. They'd just say, "Get your ass back out in the field." You know, where normally I'd probably who knows, but court martial. But so you had those extra things, and of course, great food. Food was great. Great weapons.
Oh, we're that's one thing in the chats that we're going to be covering a great deal in part 2 is the guys are wanting to know about the weapons that we'll be getting into.
I guess I should say that and I hope that people's listening I hope they understand. You know, I'm not trying to make myself out a hero because of the things I did. I mean, all the guys that did that went out there and they were all heroes. I mean, and like I told you. Everybody tried to get me to write my book for years, and I wouldn't do it because I said no one's going to believe it. Especially when you get into the fights where, you know, I fight 5 motorcycle guys, 300 some pounds, and kill one of them and put the rest of them in the hospital. I mean, you know, people aren't going to believe that. You know, like my wife says, well, they will, and some people knew about that. They made remarks on Amazon that they knew about that and everything. So I'm not trying to make myself out anything special or different than any of the other guys in our unit did, and all of the FOBs, not just ours. So.
Wow, I absolutely agree. You guys, the PUC definitely makes up for a lot, but I've always said that guys that cross the border, they deserved at least once they deserve a Bronze Star with a V just for crossing the border on a recon or a hatchet force operation.
I agree. I agree because again. Jumping off that chopper, running into the cover, you have no idea what you're running into.
No, not at all. We're gonna end up getting into some of that of what y'all run into.
I tell you, those NVA. I mean, you go 2-3 in the cover, and you would have a city under there. I mean, they would have hospitals. I mean, volleyball courts, things like that. I mean, unbelievable, and you would never see it from the sky. Never see it from the sky. So that's what I'm saying. You never know for sure if you're landing on a hot LZ. So.
I've got some great photos, and in part 2, and you mention it, and we'll cover this mission specifically because I've got it written out. And I've got pictures not from your incident, but from another recon team of them actively tying the branches and covering and you guys finding stuff. It's just unbelievable.
When you're flying over open area and you see a little trail maybe 18 inches wide, you think, well, they're not bringing tanks or trucks down there. Go right underneath that cover, 2 feet underneath the cover, and you got a road. But like I said, they pull all that in, make it look like a little trail, but it's actually part of a road. And one time I was caught out in the middle of some grass up high level height. Myself and my point man, we were crossing this area that was kind of open, and we got right in the middle of it, and all of a sudden it sounded like a buzzsaw coming through. And we got down, and it was actually one of the units. I don't know how many guys, 50 guys, 60 guys. They were coming through there like ants, taking the trees down, leveling them out, cleaning the area, making roads. I mean, it's amazing how good those guys were in North Vietnam. I mean, it's amazing the things that they could do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
We were caught right in the middle. I thought they were going to go. Fortunately, they missed us by about 20 feet, but I always thought they were going to come right on top of us.
boy.
But it just reminds me of a whole bunch of ants just crawling through the jungle. You know, how they crawl through and eat everything as they go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We're gonna have some crazy stuff for part 2, guys. So y'all keep a lookout on the show notes, and I'll be sharing and keep you updated. And Mr. Jim, if you want to hang on a second, I'm about to end it, and we'll chat offline for a second. But guys, I hope y'all have a great day, and we will see you guys later on. See y'all later.